Hello there, this is Delodson, and I want to thank you once again for taking this course with me. It's been a marathon, 10-hour almost series of videos, so thank you for sticking through it, and I hope you got out of it everything that you had hoped for. So in this series, we've covered all of the tools you need to be able to program in Excel, but it is just so much more powerful than that. As with any Office application, the power of them is being able to use them all together. So Excel with Word, with PowerPoint, with Outlook. And you can do exactly the same with Excel VBA programming. You could, for instance, from Excel VBA, open a Word document, write to it from Excel, or copy text from it back into Excel. You could also use Excel VBA programming to send emails. So in this bonus video, I will show you how to send emails from Excel. So let's assume you have an email list. It could be a list of colleagues, it could be a list of patients, and you want to send each of them an email. Let's take a look at how to do that in Excel VBA programming. Now, I've already added a button and written the code to send the email. So I'll walk you through it and explain exactly how it works. The first thing you need to do to be able to work with another Office application is make a reference to it. So to work with Outlook, we need to make a reference to Outlook. So if you go to your Tools menu, click on References, and then you need to scroll down to look for Microsoft Outlook. And there we have Microsoft Outlook 16 Object Library. Now, your version might be slightly different depending on the version of Office that you have installed. But what you're looking for is Microsoft Outlook Object Library and the highest version number you can find. Click on OK. Now, what that allows you to do is to use data types based on Outlook. So instead of declaring a data type just as a string or an integer or as a Boolean, you can actually declare a data type as a type of Outlook. So here, I've declared an Outlook application as Outlook.application. So I will use this Outlook application object to actually hold a reference directly to Microsoft Outlook. I've done the same with this Outlook email variable. So I've declared it as type Outlook.mail item. So I can use this variable to hold a reference to an Outlook email. And this line should be familiar. I've declared a variable called cell and I've made its type range. So with these three variables, I can link to Outlook and send emails. Let's see how to do that. First, before I do anything else, I want to disable events and screen updating. What this does is it stops the screen from flickering as I move between applications, as I try to open Outlook, generate my email and send it, and then come back to Excel. I want that to happen in the background without the screen updating. So that's what these lines of code do. Having set that, I can now use my set keyword to set my Outlook application variable to a new Outlook application. So my Outlook application variable is now set. So now I can use a range object to select the column that has my email addresses. So starting at cell B2, I can use this line of code here, which should be familiar to you. Starting with a range, and I'm going from my active cell to my active cell, copying to the end, going down, and then I select. That should select all of my cells that have email addresses in them and put them into a selection. I can then for each through that selection, sending emails. So here is my for each loop. What I'm doing in this for each loop is I'm checking to make sure that the cell actually contains an email address, because you don't want to try to send an email if the email address is invalid. So I'm looking at the value property of the cell object, which will be on B2 to start with, and I'm checking to see if it contains anything that starts with some text, then has an @ symbol, and has some text after it, followed by a full stop, and some text after that. Now, you would recognize that as the valid format for an email address. An email address will always have some text, an @ symbol, and some text afterwards. There'll be a full stop, and there'll be some text after that full stop. So if my cell.value Looks like a valid email address. Then I can create an email. So I can set my Outlook email variable by using my Outlook application variable and calling the create item method, telling it I want to create an item of type mail item. So that creates an Outlook email. And so with that Outlook email, I can set some properties. First of all, I can say which email address I'm sending from. Now, if you only have one email address, or if you do not set this property, the Outlook email will be sent from your default email. But I have multiple emails, and so I'm going to my Outlook application object, session property, accounts property, items, and I'm using the first item, so the first of my various email addresses. But as I say, if you do not set this, then the email will be set from your default email account. I'm then saying who I'm sending the email to. And obviously that will be the value property of my sales object, which for the first time through the loop will be the email address in cell B2. Next, I'm setting the subject of my email. Now, I'm setting it here in text, but you could set this any way you like. You could, for instance, have a different subject in column C, for instance, and have a different subject for each of the people you're sending emails to. Or you could pull this information from a text file, for instance. Next, I'm setting the actual body of the email. Now, this is the actual email message itself. Now, if the email message is long, you can actually write it in a cell, maybe, and then use that. Here, I've written it directly in Excel VBA code, but as I say, you can import this from a text file, or you could just have it in a cell in Excel. Finally, and very importantly, we're calling the send method of the Outlook email object. The send method is what actually sends the email. And then I have my end with. So that's what actually sends the email. And then I need to set the email, having created it at the beginning of this loop. I now need to set it to nothing, just in preparation for the next time round the loop. So I go round the loop again, and then I'll be in cell B3, and I can send another email. So once all the emails are sent, I can set my Outlook application object to nothing. Then I need to remember to set to true my enable events and screen updating, because I disabled them right at the start. And that is all the code you need to be able to send emails. Now, if this was a real application, I would also make sure I put error handling around all of this code. But essentially, we have everything we need to send an email. So if I hit send emails, those emails are now sent. If I go to Outlook, and here we are in my sent folder, all of the emails in my sent box. Okay, so I hope you found that interesting. It demonstrates the power of combining Excel VBA programming with other Office applications. We've demonstrated it with sending emails here, but you can just as well use Excel VBA programming to open and automate PowerPoint, for instance, or to open Microsoft Word, as we said. Great, so thank you very much for taking this course with me. I hope you'll keep an eye out for some of my other training video series that are in production around database development and design and around AI and machine learning. Best of luck with your programming journey, and let's try and keep in touch. Thank you very much. Goodbye.